guys? Welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 101. We got another rookie preview. It's Omarion, Icebox, Where My Heart Used to Be, Hampton, and Luther Burden the Third. We do have our own free Discord, Patreon as well. DM us if you guys are interested in that on Twitter and or Blue Sky. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe to the videos. I got Holler and McSpanky with me tonight. How's it going, guys?
It's going, man. It's good to be back. Last week, I don't know. We were talking about it a little bit before the show, and I was out of commission. And I had some sinus issues with some migraines going on. And it was not fun. Like my kids were. Anyways, we're back, ready to talk some more prospects. We got some, not a ton of news, but we got some good stuff going on. Holler, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. Yeah, I was sick last week as well. I felt like death. So back, good to be back. I think I'm more active in the Discord this week again, and I actually made some trades. So I'm very I was thinking about it more today. Like I'm a little uneasy sometimes on making trades at this time, just because we're so many different things coming out on rookies and stuff, and so I walk very lightly when I make my trades in the off season, especially during this time.
Nothing's worse than when you really like a prospect and then you trade for, let's say, like a running back, and you trade for a running back, and then that prospect you like goes there, and it just ruins both the guys, like the guy you just traded for and the prospect you like. You're like, well, crap. Now they both suck.
Yeah, real shit.
We'll get into it a little bit, but right now, I just feel like there's only one player that I know is like the best in the draft right now. All the other ones, it's going to really depend on draft capital, where they go and things like that. And outside of Genty, I don't feel super comfortable with everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. The more and more I watch, the more and more I'm just like Genty, everybody else.
Yeah,
in the first round. That's for sure. Should we pop into the news a little bit?
Let's do it.
It's
okay. Eagles won the Super Bowl. Kellen Moore was hired as the head coach of the Saints. Jets are going to move on from Aaron Rodgers. Anything major? Like I missed the actual official Kellen Moore hiring. Like I knew it was pretty much done deal because they waited so long and it had been rumored or whatever for quite a while. I must have missed the official announcement, and they're doing the press conferences and stuff. I'm like, wait a second, he's been hired and we're all good and ready to go. Yeah,
it was the Monday after the Super Bowl, which tells me that they had a contract ready to go. You just couldn't officially sign it. The funny thing is that Kellen Moore and Derek Carr played against each other in college.
Love it
as quarterbacks, and Kellen Moore beat him up. And Fresno State, they won something 47, 48 to 7 or something. It was horrendous.
Oh my Lord!
So I'm sure that's going to come up when they meet.
Yeah. And so I saw that that was floating all around Twitter, and I was like, dang, I didn't know that was that bad of a score. I know Fresno State wasn't much. I mean, Derek Carr was solid there, but I didn't remember it being that bad. But I think Boise State was solid. It was
powerhouse Boise.
Yeah. So I think the bigger thing though is Doug Nussmeier is the new OC there, which is Garrett Nussmeier's dad.
Oh, I was gonna say,
yeah. So he was on the Eagles staff. I don't know exactly what he was. So it kind of makes sense why he's going there. So we'll see what they do. Maybe they're gonna kind of be sucky this year and go out and get
Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, exactly. I think he could be a solid, NFL QB. So,
I do. I like Nussmeier. I think he needed to come back an extra year, which he did.
He's no Drew Aller, but he's a solid QB.
He's no Drew Aller. True words are never spoken.
But yeah, no, I think it's also really good for the Jets moving on from Aaron Rodgers, that saga, and I think it's also really good for Aaron Glenn. I also saw some news on Sleeper that the possibility of Justin Fields going to the Jets, but who knows exactly what's happening there. That's just something that popped up today on Sleeper during the day. So
I think it's going to go well for him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He needs an offensive line like Philly has.
Yes,
Justin Fields, he's not you can't keep putting him in these situations with bad offensive lines and expect different results. He needs a top an offensive line realistically. if he actually be a quarterback.
Definitely.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. Maybe like a trade for a Kirk Cousins or something like that. I know he's obviously not the greatest, but I don't know exactly what they'll do because I don't think they're really in a spot to draft a QB. Like I personally don't think outside the top 2 is not really worth drafting in the first round. I know Jackson Dart's getting some hype. But for me, he's a second round QB in my opinion. So more of like a project go and sit behind somebody. So yeah, just we'll see what's happening. But I think the overall Aaron Glenn's starting to turn that, culture around, which is really, really good.
We could try to get Matthew Stafford. Apparently he's available and on the block. I don't think we touched on that, but apparently the Rams are ready to move on. But I think it's more like if they get a top 10 pick, they're like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. So I also think with
Right.
A lot of insiders. I follow a lot of insiders on Twitter, X, whatever, and his wife is just she just yaps a lot and
I think they're
says
done
a lot of stuff,
yeah.
and so she's annoying, to be honest. But I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll figure it out. They'll probably have to overpay. They'll readjust his contract, but again, he deserves the money. But I also don't think they should trade in Cooper Kupp. They should figure out that as well, but they won't. But yeah, no, I think if they were to get a top 10, like in my opinion, that's a smash. Like go ahead and move Matthew Stafford. They can, grab a top 10 player, and then I don't care if they go Stetson Benton for the year or whatever. But
I think he might when you see him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, I'm just saying, like they have, like if they do move on from Stafford, they have a lot of holes per se. So I just think it's kind of like not necessarily a full reset because their defense is solid, but for me, it's like they're kind of resetting and I don't think it's going to happen though, because that's not what McVay does. I think it'll end up being Stafford again, and we'll be all good.
Where do you guys think Aaron Rodgers ends up next year? Do you think he's done? Do you think he calls it quits? Or do you think
I don't think he's done.
Roster.
Yeah, I think he will land somewhere. I think, I would say he could ruin kind of wherever he goes, unless he goes to a place where a coach doesn't, stand for his shit, for the lack of a better word. You know what I mean? So I just think there aren't many of those, to be honest, though. So I don't know exactly. I know you put in there that the betting favorite is Pittsburgh. I don't really know how that would work out with Tomlin and him. I don't see those guys working out together, in my opinion. But I don't really know right now. I can't really think of a place that it would really like work out. So
it's just he has such a bad taste in his mouth from
exactly what I mean.
The last few years, it just seems like every offseason it's always something. During the season, he's on the Pat McAfee show. He's running his mouth about whatever. I think it's in his best interest to go somewhere and just play quarterback and stop trying to be like a makeshift GM / player and just go play quarterback. Be a veteran QB. Maybe help out a younger guy at the twilight of your career and just. I don't know. But.
Yeah, spot on. I just think for him that's like going to be tough. So who knows? Follow his Brett Favre and go to the Vikings.
It's his destiny.
There's only like 2 places I can put him, and like Vegas, because like that's just that's a Vegas thing to do, is to bring Aaron Rodgers in. Sorry, Spanky. And then like the Minnesota bridge deal, complete the Brett Favre circle. Because like everywhere, like the Titans have so many holes in that roster. Like I don't see him wanting to be there or them deciding to take that on. Like they're not ready for anything at all. And I mean, the Raiders probably aren't either. But like you can probably talk yourself in to the Raiders a little bit more. With Pete Carroll. You got Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, and see what they do with the early draft pick.
Does Brady and Rodgers have a relationship? I think that would be the only thing there. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is I don't really think that would like work out per se. They would butt heads, and so that's what I mean. Like I'm trying to think of like where he could land. I know it makes sense Pittsburgh, but I just don't see Tomlin and him.
Cleveland.
Same thing. Possibly Cleveland. So I don't know. This will be interesting. I just think for like all intents. Like, I just think he's kind of not a fantasy quarterback anymore. Not somebody that you really want to start in your lineup at all.
I can't go down that route again.
So if you have him, just let him die on your roster. I mean, unless you can get, if I could get a third for him, which I don't think people would even send for, I would take it, because I don't think I would ever feel comfortable with him starting in my lineup. I think I'd rather put a positional player in there. I think it'll be easier to say once he is on a team, but
once he has a team, I bet you can get a second for him.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe in like mid-season.
Definitely,
somebody's
probably,
hurting for a quarterback. I need some points. Blah blah blah. You guys know how it goes. Sorry, I got further ahead in the show notes and I started doing something else. You guys want to hop down to these trades that we pulled off this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
We got Jordan Addison for a 109. I believe that was you, McSpanky.
It was me, and I did that twice. The second one, JB inched a 502 out of me as well.
Wow!
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we had 5 rounds in that league.
I didn't either. Until I went to see what the lowest pick I could send him was, and that was it. So, but anyways, that was kind of a fun little. We had a little back and forth in our DM. But yes, Jordan Addison for the 109. I feel like Addison's has a little bit more trade market value lately for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because people are down on this wide receiver class. And so it's kind of boosted his ranking up a little bit. I kind of have him more as like a back end first, early second kind of a guy.
Yep.
But the one offer I got was like unsolicited, and then the second one I kind of sought out a little bit. So I'm not sure why there's such a markup there for him, but I was very happy to trade him away for the 109.
Yeah. So I was just looking where I have him, and I was just looking at, I have Tank Dell here on twice, and he's at the wrong spot at the top there. But yeah, so right now I have him down here with Jameson Williams, with like Evan Ingram and Joe Mixon and those type of guys in tier 14. So kind of a couple of guys that I have ahead of him are rookies. First is Tyler Warren, and then both QBs, and then let's see here, Hampton, Burden, Tet, and Genty. Oh, also Henderson. So what is that, like 6, 7? So yeah, I think you got a fine deal, right? So I agree. I don't know why there's that market for him, especially if JJ McCarthy is going to be the guy. I don't know if he can support three guys, right? And they also need a running back. But I always thought Jordan Addison's a solid wide receiver, a really good wide receiver too on his team. But I think, with how deep this class is, I think you can get yourself a nice player in that 7 to 9 range and possibly flip for a wide receiver 3 versus Addison's going to be more of like a flex play in your lineup, in my opinion.
That's just the thing. Like, I feel like, so I was pulling up his stats, like 2 years, his stats are basically the same. He had 104 targets rookie year, 100 targets on the dot this past year, 911 yards versus 904 yards, 10 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns. The thing with him is he'll get those, like that random game where he'll go off for like 150 yards and like 3 touchdowns. And so the end of year numbers look good, but then like if you started them every week, a lot of the times you're like, damn it, like he got me like 7 points in like PPR scoring, and you're just like, well, that kind of blows. But then he'll have that blow up game, and that's where it's like I feel like he gets overvalued a little bit, personally. But that's why I was having to move on from him. I like him as a receiver quite a bit, and the JJ McCarthy thing, like. I like JJ McCarthy quite a bit. I think I've talked about him more than I probably should have on this show. But the Vikings had a really good offense this past year with Sam Darnold. McCarthy comes in. I would assume he'll play really well. We don't know who he's going to go to. I would assume he's going to favor Justin Jefferson because why wouldn't you? And then we'll see if it's Addison or Hawkinson who kind of gets the secondary targets there. And who knows? Maybe they bring in another receiver via the draft or free agency. But I feel like there's some question marks there. I think he has gotten super good touchdown luck, which I don't necessarily know if that kid will continue. It's happened 2 years in a row, so maybe that's just who he is. He's just not a high volume guy, but he's going to get a lot of touchdowns. Either way, I feel like 109, I can get a solid player that I can
exactly
there and feel good about it.
And so I probably should have just counted the players instead of talking to them about it. But basically, it's 108 is exactly where I have them. I think there was Perfect. 7 guys I have ahead of them, right? So 108, 109 is a really nice return for Addison, especially if we get 4, 5, 6 running backs in the first 2 days of the draft, and then we have the 3 or 4 wide receivers and all that, right? You're gonna get, and then obviously the two quarterbacks, 2 tight ends. So anywhere in that 108 to 112 range is, in my opinion, probably a fine return on Addison.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, I did a trade.
Boomer bust guy for sure on Addison.
We traded Jameson Williams in the 205 for DK Metcalf in the 212.
I bet you guys can't guess who got which side.
Yeah, definitely some boredom on my part. I did want to add a little bit more JMO to across the dynasty shares. And I just kind of, it was, sparked off from a conversation that was happening in the Discord about DK, or I don't think it was DK's value. I think it was actually JMO's value we were talking about. And I just kind of wanted to see, and on a points per game wise, he's kind of like Addison as well. It's a little bit roller coastery and up and down. But the boom games are big old booms can win you the week. So I was pretty fine trading for him on that roster as well. And I like DK Metcalf. DK is really good at football. He's getting older, and he's not really.
He's 27.
Yeah,
I don't know that hit. It's just saying he's getting older. I'm not saying that put him in the grave or get out of here. But he's getting older, and his style of play, nobody's gonna come out here and say DK is a technician and can get open for 12 years in the league. Once it starts to go for DK, I think it's gonna start to go, and we'll notice kind of quickly. So just moving off a little bit of DK to get over to JMO, and I get a little bump in the second round in a deep class. I think I tried to send you a 3rd initially, and then you came back for the 212, which is
you tried to send me a 4.
Fine. I sent you a 4. I must not have
sent me a 4. You sent me 205, and I was sending you the 205 with your 412 or whatever it was.
I must not have had a 3rd.
Wes says
I wanted to send you a 3rd.
Wes says hurry, trade him. 3 or 4 years left in his prime. Yeah, so I love DK Metcalf. I also like JMO, but I am firmly here on DK. I personally, I know that the shift is going from JSN from DK to JSN in Seattle, and but in my opinion, they're different wide receivers. I still think they can both be really good. I know the issue there. I'm gonna say that's really a big issue, but the issue there is Geno. If they can get themselves another quarterback, Sam Howell's not it, obviously. But he can sling it. So if it needs to be Sam Howell for a year or whatever, I think it would be fine for DK and JSN. But for me, I feel more comfortable with DK than I do, JMO. I think JMO is kind of more like a flex guy versus DK is like your wide receiver 2 or 3, and you feel really good about it.
Yeah, DK this year.
The thing with DK Metcalf is, so he had his worst year by far.
Yep.
It was his second time that he went under 1,000 yards, but the only time that happened before, he had 12 touchdowns, where he only had 5 this year. So this was his lowest touchdown total. He hadn't gone below 8 in the previous 5 seasons. So I think there's a little bit of a bounce back. I think he actually fits really well. Clint Kubiak is coming into Seattle. They do a lot of like run to set up like play action deep shots, which I think fits DK Metcalf like perfectly. I think he still has the speed in him. I know he's 27 and he's has to walk with a cane, but I think he can still get down the field and beat some receivers deep. And to me too, it's more. I feel like he's going to get more of the offense like geared towards him than JMO ever will in Detroit.
Yeah,
whereas
sure.
like, the Lions, that offense runs through the two running backs and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then you have JMO and Laporta and I guess Tim Patrick or whoever else they want to line up there at receiver.
Tim
but
B, baby.
It's more of a Metcalf is going to be the guy or at least one of the guys.
I think if say you have a deep wide receiver room and you want to kind of try to move up a little bit in the draft, and I don't think you're really losing too much production per se. It's like probably a couple points, 3 to 4. But I'm a DK guy. He's my second most rostered wide receiver outside of Puka. So it's just like I usually have him higher than the two of you guys in my rankings, and so I've just always been a guy that like DK, but I agree 100%. He did take a little bit of a step back this year, and I think a lot of it is, kind of why their offensive coordinator was, relieved of his duties, and I think Kubiak's going to come in, and I think he's going to have a nice bounce back year, and and I think also JSN was getting better, right? He's getting more comfortable in the NFL, and JSN is no slouch at all. So I think it's all that combined, and so I'm like I said, firmly on the DK, but it's a little bit of like he's one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL, and so a little bit of a homerism. So
for what it's worth, the Discord liked your side better run with JMO.
Really?
205. It was pretty close. It was like
I sent out something similar in probably like 5 more leagues, and everybody told me that I needed to add to DK to get to JMO.
Crazy.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Every single person told me picks were on the wrong side.
But if you look at like keep trade cut, which
every
is
single
like
one,
obviously
I was like, you can like nobody thought like equal or like, oh yeah, I could see, because like I said, I was trying to send you a 2-3 swap mix, Spanky. That's generally what I sent to people, is something around what I thought would be close to like a 2-3 swap, and that was pretty much the response I got, which I thought was shocking because I thought everybody hated JMO. Like I thought I'd be getting this done left and right.
Things change now. People like
I know, man.
And so I think what's happening is DK is below JMO in like keep trade cut, which to me is crazy. But maybe I think JMO's starting to get a little bit better, and who knows? I don't think that's why I say who knows. Like I don't think he's going to. I think we know what he is and what he's going to be. Solid wide receiver. And to me, the Lions aren't really going to go out and get themselves another wide receiver. They're not. They shouldn't draft one. They have other areas that they should improve their team for the longevity, and they have injuries in areas. And so, I think they have obviously those 2 really good running backs. And so in my opinion, they're not going to go out and get another wide receiver. And also, like Wes is saying, there's nobody else outside of JSN that's really going to take targets away, right? There are 3 other people in Detroit that could take away those. So in my opinion, I disagree with keep trade cut. I know, crazy, but really it's JMO's wide receiver 25 and DK's wide receiver 29. So that's a little crazy to me. I might try to go buy some more DK, I guess.
Apparently, so on Dynasty Data Lab, JMO and DK Metcalf are back to back in ADP, 78th, 79th overall. So.
Wow.
According to that, I should have gotten the pick swap in my favor. So
yeah, apparently.
I think
I don't know. Even as a guy that really likes JMO, like I would still take DK ahead of JMO, for all the reasons you guys have said. It really was like the trade is mostly about the pick bump.
Yeah,
going up
I figured
adding that second is really what it was. All right, next trade here. Dalton Kincaid and Xavier Leggett for George Kittle. Was this one of you guys, or is this from the Discord?
No, this is mine. So I was going back and forth, and I personally don't really love Kincaid. I feel like we kind of know what he is per se. I do think the age gap was something that kind of I wanted to hold off a little bit, but I think George Kittle is like obviously they're going to kind of move away from Debo probably, and so I think he's like option number 2 there or 3 once McCaffrey's healthy. So option number 3 there. So for me, I think it's a bump in the tight end, and I think Leggett's kind of whatever, right? Going to be. I don't think much in is anything, right? So I think it was a fine trade. You know, I think the biggest issue there was the age. You know, but I also had Kraft, but I also have two firsts. I think I have a 111 there. So I'm probably going to try to look to go Loveland there, right? So I should be fine, you know, with the tight end. So I just felt like it was a nice bump at tight end, and so and I just kind of wanted to get out of Kincaid was my thought there.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think you touched on it. The biggest issue here is just Kittle's 31.
Yeah.
So, and you gave up 2 like young players.
Yep.
I don't. Xavier Leggett's kind of whatever. I think that's more of like a throw in. Kincaid, it's like, do you believe in Kincaid at all? Like, he's 5 touchdowns across 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, he went from 101 targets down to 81 this year. He's not always on the field, which is strange. It also feels like that offense, Josh Allen will kind of just like spread it around. And I don't know if that's going to change. I think we kind of were the last hope for Kincaid was, well, Stephon Diggs is gone now, so targets are going to go to someone. But him and Shakir have a little bromance going on. He dumps it down to James Cook a decent amount. He'll just take off and run when stuff isn't there. He doesn't really look for Kincaid in the red zone for whatever reason. So it's like touchdown upside's not there. He's not getting a ton of volume. He's not getting a bunch of yardage. Kincaid was a really good prospect, and now it's 2 straight years of, okay, what are we doing here? We're hoping it turns around, and I think some of that hope is flaming out. So I don't blame you at all for
and Wes, it's a really good argument, right? We've only gotten 2 years of Kincaid. A lot of times it takes time for tight ends. But you know, if you look into Joe Brady, he doesn't really use the tight end that often. You know, so I think the first option there and we saw it already, like they're not too worried about going out and getting this really nice wide receiver. So their first option is to run the ball. You know, so I think that's kind of all those things lumped in. And also in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to try to get Loveland at 111. You know, and I really like Colston Loveland. So then I'm fine, you know, getting another tight end super young, right? So, you know, I think that was also part of what was in the back of my mind. So I think a lot of things there, and you know, I think it's fine. I personally don't think much is going to change with Kincaid. I know he was a nice prospect, but I think we've kind of seen what he is. So
he was second on the Bills in targets. Like, I don't think that gets better. If anything, they're going to bring in extra bodies, receivers. So.
And then this next one. So this is a lot of I traded away 104 and 107 for Brock Purdy. So I do know that was probably a little bit pricey for Brock Purdy. Now a little bit on the scoring in this league, it's a little bit juiced for QBs, +6, -1, and then -1 for sacks, and then also 0.25 for passing first down. So Purdy was like right in the middle. And how many sacks he's got. He's not on the high end, on the low end of not taking sacks. So that's something that I also, you know, brought into mind. And then before I made the trade, I looked into how he was the last 2 years. He was QB6 in 2023 and QB11 in 2024 in that league. So he is a top 12 quarterback. You know, and I don't think I'm getting myself a quarterback in this draft. And I have Goff and Anthony Richardson. Right. So I had 3 firsts, right? So I still have 1 more first. I have a later first. So I probably should have started with sending the later first. I think it was like 109. That's what Spanky suggested. You know, so I think it's a little bit on the pricier side, but my team, I have Gibbs and Bijan at running back. I have what else I have? I have tight end. I have Laporta. So my team is like in a spot, I think, to compete next year. So I just felt like I was like not necessarily a quarterback away, but I wanted to secure that, you know, second quarterback.
It's okay. Yeah. So I don't think it's like outrageous. I think it's a little on the pricier side, but then you kind of explain some of the QB scoring. The passing first down probably helps him just in that they do a lot of like short, like
Yep.
kind of dump off and passes, where he'll probably accumulate more first downs than I would assume some of the other quarterbacks who just kind of hug it deep will. So I think that plays into his favor. And I have Brock Purdy on QB 10 in my ranking, so I don't think it's outrageous by any means. It is a little pricey. That's probably like the maximum I would ever want to pay for Brock Purdy, but
100%.
I don't hate it, especially because knowing that the quarterbacks in this year's class, none of them like scream like, oh, this is like a must draft kind of guy. So
yeah. And then I have Richardson in my back pocket if he does if he does improve it all. So then I have nice three good quarterbacks there. So I think it was a kind of a solid move. And then this last one here is something I saw in a trade in one of the leagues: 103 and 206 for 105 and 111.
What side do you like there?
I like the 105 and 111 because I'm acquiring another first. Because like I said earlier, and I put in my notes here, is right now I just have 101 as Genty, and then I need to wait before I can readjust. Right? Obviously, there's some guys that are better and whatever, but I'm not moving from 105 to 103 at this time.
Because realistically, are you gaining any value, or are you just saying I'm gonna pick the first guy in this tier that I like?
Yep.
It feels like a tier, like both picks. I feel like they just moved in the tier, like they just swapped.
Exactly. That's
and so I don't want to move. What is it, 6 or 7 spots to move up 2 spots, right? When I make an argument that 103 to 111 today, it could all be anything, right?
The only way that makes sense is if the 103 side is like, I need a quarterback. I believe in Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and I think I'm going to take one of them there. I think that's the only way you can kind of talk yourself into that one.
Yeah. Before I put this down, I didn't look at the rosters at all. I just wanted to touch on it just because it's not at this time. It's not something I would do. I think there's a lot of question marks. I know this class is really deep, but with how deep it is, like outside of Genty, I don't think there's another guy right now that I could be like, boom, I love him at 102 or 103. I think I feel comfortable with a ton of people. Yeah, same with you. 108 and 109 for me.
Yep. The picks, baby.
Yep. So for context for the audio feed, it was a Superflex 103 and Ricky Parasol or the 108 and 109 with PPR Superflex. I'm going 108 and 109 there. I think there's solid value in the back half of the draft. And Ricky Parasol, it's kind of a wait and see, but I don't think he makes up the difference. I think he's more of like a 2 kind of a value.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I do know a lot of people like Parasol. So I think if you have the 103 and Parasol and you're moving back, I think you do it right now.
I would.
Moving back to 108 and 109. Yeah. It's kind of exactly what I just talked about. Like right now, 102 to 112 is a big jumble.
Yeah. I'm not like, I prefer to move my picks during the draft. When people really want something, right? Like we've talked about, like on all these with picks, it's such a big question mark right now, and so many things have yet to be decided. It's also where you can find advantages and get up there cheaper, though. Maybe by the time the draft rolls around, 103 is set in stone, and we're like, oh, maybe we should have taken.
And there's been times where I've gotten in my head, this is the draft order, is how it's going to play out. I need to get to 106, let's say, to get my guy. Where then you start getting to the draft and you're like, well, shit, I could have gotten him at 109. But I made that decision to go get him beforehand, like months ahead of time, and I cost myself,
And so
assets.
This was kind of exactly why I put this in the notes, is just because like today. I keep saying that, but today I don't think that's a trade you need to do, right? You can wait and 103 to 105 is not big of enough for me to move back to 206 from 111.
This year's class is different in that there's not like, I think like last year it was like, you wanted to get in the top like 5 picks or so because there's the quarterbers and then a couple of the receivers. This year it's not really like that. It's kind of flat after Genty and probably Tet, right? There's a lot of like, oh, well, no, we got to see where the guys get drafted in their landing spots before you can kind of get a finalized, like, this is where the tiers are going to shake out.
Yeah, and also some people don't like Tet, right? So
a lot of people don't. Yeah,
there could be people in your draft that pass on him, and you can get him at 105, and now you just added a 111. So, for me, I think right now, kind of like what I talked about in the beginning, like, kind of hold off on moving those picks, even though I just did for a QB. But if you have I think in my opinion, just kind of hold off and move on draft day.
Yeah. And every league, so I mean, the comment there, sometimes moving a pick during the draft is difficult. Sometimes it is. Sometimes more people are more willing to move them. You just kind of gotta know your league, right?
Yep.
Know the people you play with. Some people, it's like when they're on the clock, they're just excited. They're gonna pick. Other people, they'll sit there. They can't wait till they're on the clock, and then they're like, "All right, it's on the block, boys," and they sit there for a day. So you gotta know the people you play with. You know your league best.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You guys ready to hop into Omarion here?
All been ready. Let's do it.
All right. Let's get into Omarion. Let me get that back up because I went somewhere else. Don't worry about me.
All right, Spanky, go ahead and take us away to the...
Yeah, so he comes in 6'1", 220. That's what he's listed weight at North Carolina. We'll get the official measurements at the combine here at the end of the month. The fantasy effects score that we gave him was a 98%, so he scored in the 98th percentile of running back since 2020, which is real good. He's a bit of a workhorse, right? So he's carried the ball just under 60% of the team's market share over his career, averaging 95 yards a game, an explosive run, which is a run of 10 yards or more on 15% of his carries. He forces a missed tackle on 1 out of every 4 of his carries. Yards after contact, he's a bruiser, man. 4 yards after contact. Yards per route run, 106, and running backs would like to see that number over 1. So he checks the box there, and he also found the end zone a ton, just under 1 touchdown per game in his career. He didn't play against a ton of top 40 competition. Playing the ACC, it was pretty weak. However, in 3 of the 4 games he did play, he went well over 100 yards and was just torching them. They got really behind the NC State game in 2023, and he didn't really do a lot. But other than that, he lit up Minnesota, Duke, Clemson last couple of years. Some analytic comps for him. We're going to expect him to go in the 2nd round of the NFL draft. That's where I expect him to have. Some other guys that fit that same mold were Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, and Jonathan Brooks. I'll let you guys. I'll set the table there. How do you feel about Omarion Hampton? I think we can start with: is he your running back 2 or 3? I think I've seen him flipped between him and TreVeyon Henderson in a lot of people's rankings. He's my 3rd right now, but
So for me, it depends on the day. But I'm kind of leaning more towards him, my running back 3. But I think I like TreVeyon Henderson quite a bit as well. But for me, I think they're a little bit different running backs. So I think right now it's like 2A, 2B. And it could flip anytime. But man, he like at 220, I know one of his cons is he doesn't have that breakaway speed, but he can actually, break away a bit, right? So it's not in that top end breakaway speed, but when I was looking at some things, I saw a stat that he had 26 runs over 15 yards this last season. At 220, that's awesome, right? I know he wasn't playing against some of the greatest competition in the ACC with their defense, but again, they put plenty of players in the NFL. So for me, I just think he can run the ball and be fast if it's needed. And then also, I read or watched a few highlights from his game against NC State this year, and man, he went through he gets to the linebacker like super well. And so I just think he's going to be a really, really good running back in the NFL. I think for me, it's really going to depend on when and where he goes. I feel it's going to be 2nd round. So day 2, he'll get that capital. So for me, I feel comfortable taking him anywhere like 102, 103, 104.
So I think you said it really well. Like he doesn't have the high end, open space, long speed. Like for example, like when TreVeyon Henderson, when he gets in the open field, like that dude's gone. Like that's a house call. Omarion Hampton, it depends on who's chasing him, right? Like he can outrun linebackers, but corners are probably going to catch him, which isn't a bad thing. But the thing that he makes up for is when he sees a hole, he can get skinny and he hits it. Like he has crazy acceleration. What I noticed, I watched the NC State game this year too. There was a couple times where it wasn't blocked like particularly great, but there was just enough room for him to get through there, and he shot the gap, and he got 10, 12, 13 yards. That's huge, right? Like that doesn't just most guys can't do that. Especially at 6'1", 220, like most guys don't move like that at that kind of a big body. He has good contact balance too. He does catch the ball well. I'm curious if you guys saw the same thing. So it didn't seem like they used them like to run like routes necessarily. There's a lot of just like screens and dump offs, but he looked like he can do it. It's just they didn't necessarily have him go run routes. Is that
so you guys do? So when I say he's a little bit different from Henderson, right? Henderson is a guy that you're going to swing out and throw the ball to. Not really like you don't need to do the screen. Hampton's more of a screen guy, kind of like a small Derrick Henry, right? And so I think they're a little bit like. Well, I just kind of want to use that as like bigger running back, and we don't see.
I got you.
We don't see Derrick Henry just like he can kind of do it whatever. So it's not. I don't mean it as like a good comparison. But for me, it's just he's a bigger running back, and so I don't think we're going to see him be the pass catching running back per se. Is where I was trying to go.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's not a pass catcher, but I think he's got the capability. There's a couple times he came out of the backfield and just sitting down in front of the linebackers or on the move catching a pass, and then the yards after the catch too were actually pretty good as well. Yeah, for somebody that that we see as more of just the physical bruiser between the tackles. And he definitely has some big, like, gashing runs in there. I'm more along the lines with McSpanky, though. Like, I want my back to have the Travion Henderson, Devin Achane, Jahmyr Gibbs speed to him to where he can make one touch, worth your entire week, basically there. Hampton, you're gonna need that volume in his game for him to make it worth your while, really. And it looks like he can carry the load. I mean, he looks like a beast out there, dude. He's physical, he's fast,
he's a big boy.
He's always falling forward. Generally seems to be doing the right stuff. So for me, him bounce anything too often, or kind of get creative on runs. Like it's kind of
he goes
the
where
hole, and that's what we're gonna do, kind of thing. So it really leans into his athleticism and physicality and stuff like that. And I don't know if that will get him into trouble at the NFL. Kind of just being lackluster in the creativity area.
I do think though he has good patience. So a lot of times when I was watching, I saw like he was waiting in bursting through the hole. So I feel like that will help him a little bit. But for me, I think depending on where he lands, I think he could be like a David Montgomery to like
you want to comp him to Derrick Henry so bad.
So that's what I think of Hampton. Right, it's more of like every like first down, second down running back, and then they bring in their speed guy. That's where I kind of think of as Hampton.
No, for sure. Yeah. I think he's more of a like a first and second down back than he is a third down back. Yeah. I think so. He ran a lot of zone concept at UNC. Some zone run teams that need a running back are the Steelers, Vikings, and Cowboys. I think those spots make a lot of sense. The Vikings don't have a second round pick, which might be a bit of a bummer there. So they would have to take him in the first, which incidentally, I think
he just got mocked.
Jeremiah just got mocked, just mocked him, I think, to the Chargers, which I think would be nice too. I don't know if he goes in the first. I think he's more of a second round guy, but I don't know. Teams get weird. Teams get weird. We'll see. I do think he's a top 50 pick though. So I think if you want him, you're gonna need to take him at the back of the first if you don't have one of those picks.
Let's see here. The Debbie Royale, they do a NFL mock draft, right? That me and Spanky are both in, and he was mocked the second round to Chicago. Which I think would be awesome, right? We think of Roschon Johnson,
top of the second too. Which
so we think of as like Roschon Johnson, and then Swift, right? I think he would be a much better Roschon Johnson. So I think that would be a nice spot, not the best spot in my opinion, but there's a lot of better spots for him. But I think that's where he's going to go in that second round, the top 15 picks. So in that top 15 pick, there's Cleveland. Obviously,
Cleveland would be
Giants,
good, too.
Tennessee, Jacksonville, Vegas. So Vegas would be nice in that second round at 30, pick 37. So I think there's a lot of really good spots for him to land as long as he doesn't land on the Jets there because they have 42, pick 42. So that's kind of somewhere I'm hoping he doesn't land.
Only thing I'll say on Vegas is Chip Kelly's coming over. They ran more like gap scheme than they did zone runs at Ohio State. And if Chip Kelly keeps that up, I don't know if Omarion Hampton's a good fit for that style of offense. I also think, maybe it's just like a lazy comp, but I think Travion Henderson fits that offense better just because he's played in it the last.
No, totally.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But no, they do need a running back. I don't know if Hampton's stylistically a fit, but that's up for the GMs to decide, not me. But I do like Chicago though. I think that would work quite a bit.
Yeah.
They have 2 picks at the top of the second round, or they could easily do it. Honestly, New England, I could see that too. Antonio Gibson needs some kind of upgrade. Ramondre had some fumbling problems where he kind of seemed to fall out of favor. It's a new coaching staff though, so we'll see. But I could see that them wanting to upgrade on the running back there too. Although they did just pay Ramondre, if I'm not mistaken, so they might.
They did.
Yeah, I think he got a deal. Yeah,
but they do need, in my opinion, they do need an upgrade. I think possibly if I was just looking at it, if we just said at Cleveland, but if Dallas per se skips out on
44
on Genty, at 44 would be good. I think it just really depends. Obviously, I'm pretty like thinking that Genty's gonna go to Dallas, but
that's the popular mock right now for Genty right now. Is Dallas at 12. I mean, theoretically though too, like if he kind of falls a little bit, Denver at 51, the Chargers at 55 if they don't take a running back in the first. Those could be some nice outs. Pittsburgh at 52, I think makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Buffalo at 56. I know there's some talk that James Cook he wants like $15 million a year or some crazy contract, which he's not getting that. So that could be a situation where they're worth monitoring there as well.
So there's a lot of spots I think he could land. I think he's going to go. I really think he'll go day 2. Probably should be in the first 10, 15 picks in that second day of round 2. So I think he probably would most likely be the second or third running back off the in your rookie drafts.
I think so. I think he'll be probably the second. I think between him and Travion, they're going to be the second and third running backs go off the board in the NFL draft and in your rookie draft.
Yep.
I'm interested to see Caleb Johnson because it seems like the steam is once again picking back up for Caleb Johnson. Like he went away for a minute, and now I
should go away.
People saying he's running back 2 again. I don't know. I haven't watched him yet, so
he's good. Really... He doesn't have like, who? Okay, so who Caleb Johnson reminds me of a lot, and Holler, close your ears, is Brian Robinson. He does everything fine. He's not flashy. He's not like electric. He's just a good running back, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
He has really good vision. He's another one of those guys where it's like if it's blocked for him, he'll go through it, but he's not gonna like outrun anybody. He's not gonna like over physical you. He's just gonna kind of get what's blocked. He's gonna, he does some nice things. I'm not a Caleb Johnson guy, if you can't tell. But
you know why I love Brian Johnson's Brian Thomas
Robinson.
Thank you.
We'll get there.
It's because he was so cheap, right? Late second, early third, and so that's why I liked him so much, and I had a good amount, and then you could buy him cheap and all that. That's why, and so and then he ended up doing pretty well, right? And so, but you said it right. Like he is a fine running back. He's not going to win you any weeks. But he's probably not going to lose you any weeks either. I mean, he could, but most of the time he'll get you a nice 12 to 14 points.
Yeah, if Caleb Johnson goes somewhere where he can be a workhorse back, great.
Yep.
But he needs volume. One of the comments in the chat is, how do you like the Pittsburgh Steelers for rookie running back? I think that's one of the better spots for them, honestly. Both Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are free agents. I would expect them to bring Jalen Warren back. I think he's going to be the cheaper option, and they're going to let Najee walk, which Omarion Hampton fits that Steelers running situation really well. I think if he makes it to the Steelers second pick, I think that's locked and loaded. They're going to run the card in for Hampton, and I think that would be a great fit.
I'll always be interested in the Steelers running back until they prove me otherwise.
They always have a good.
Pittsburgh has just always run the ball. Yes, indeed. Are you guys ready to move on from Hampton and get into Burden here? Okay,
let's do it.
We got Luther Burden, wide receiver from Missouri, 5'11", 208.
Yeah.
Take it away,
so his analytics scores are really good, 97.9% out of percentile. So awesome there. Yards per route run, 2.32. Like for wide receivers, we like to see that over 2. So he hits that threshold. He got targeted on 28% of his routes run. He's a slotty boy though. So he's 60% of his snaps came in the slot. And then contested target rate of 17%. So he didn't have a ton of targets. Basically he got open a lot. The one thing I will say with Luther Burden is the route tree is really not there. Watching him, it's like he'll run a little curl route, he'll run a go route, or he'll run kind of like a slant, or he'll just kind of sit there and take a screen and just kind of do what he does. He's great in the open field though. Like, I comped him
awesome.
to Golden Tate. He kind of reminded me of that when he gets the ball in his hand, running in the he's good.
Running back.
He's basically a running back with a ball in his hand. His route running needs a lot of work. I said the same thing about Brian Thomas though, and he ended up just fine. So
Luther does the back shoulder well. Actually, for somebody who kind of struggles I don't want to say struggles as a wide receiver, but doesn't have like the the normal wide receiver skill sets, that we see, little lackluster route running and things like that. You'd think he would struggle on that back shoulder ball, but he actually plays that really well. He's super strong too, man.
Super strong. Yep.
One of the tapes I saw him shed a defensive tackle off his back, and then continue on for a couple more yards. He's hard to take down. That's for sure. Really strong guy. Where do you guys have him wide receiver wise in the class?
He's my wide receiver 2 at the moment. I feel pretty good about that. I think he's got like that fringe, like first, early second draft capital. That I think at the end of the day, he's going to go in the first round. And if he does, I'm pretty in on him in kind of that pick like 3 to 6 tier, kind of with the 2 running backs, Omarion Hampton, Trayvon Henderson, and then also Tyler Warren.
So I agree 100%. I think he's going to go. He could be a top 15 pick, and then if he ends up not and going in like the 24 to 32 range, he's going to be going to a good team, and so therefore I think he's going to be a really, really nice wide receiver 2 if that team already has a good wide receiver 1, and I think he would thrive in that position, right? I think he would be nice and a really good player out of the slot. I think at Missouri they didn't really use him to his strength per se because their quarterbacks were not great. So they just wanted to
train wreck.
Yeah, they just wanted to get him the ball and then let him go. And I think he's really, really good at that, right? He can get yards after the catch. He can make defenders miss, and so and he's fast, right? So he's got plenty of room for improvement. But the wide receiver class is not like outside of Tet is not super great. There's a couple guys I do like, after, but for me, he's firmly the second wide receiver in this class. There's some other guys that could go in the first, but I don't think they should. Someone like a Matthew Golden could possibly go in the end of the first.
Igbuka.
Igbuka, obviously. I could see some people liking Igbuka a little bit more than in Burden because that production really dropped off for Burden, but I also think it dropped off a little bit for Igbuka as well. I like both of those guys, but I think for me, he's firmly 2 and Igbuka 3. And I think all 3 of those wide receivers, Tet, Burden, and Igbuka, are going to go in the first round. And I think that's probably it. So for me, I feel comfortable taking Burden anywhere. Again, I have not shied away at saying that I don't like these quarterbacks. So for me, I feel no, like I would love to take Tet, any of those wide receivers I said, right? Anywhere between like 3 and 6 and 7, 106, 107. So I think it also really depends on where, obviously, of course, where Burden lands. I would be more comfortable with him landing on a team with a good offense and good quarterback.
Some landing spots, I think. The stretch of the draft, I would be shocked if he made it past here. At 25, we got Houston. They need a receiver. 26, the Rams. They're shipping off Cooper Kupp. They need a new slot guy. The Ravens, someone to pair with Zay Flowers. And then at 29, the Commanders, who really just have Terry McLaurin, and that's about it. So I would be shocked if he made it past that stretch of teams in the back half of the first round. And I think any of those would be awesome.
Yep. I've seen him gone all the way as high as 9 to the New Orleans Saints, right? And I think that would be fine. Obviously, Derek Carr is not the quarterback we want, but I think it'd be a fine
Jeff
spot.
Capital, you can't. I mean,
but I think he would work out well next to Chris Olave. But then if you think about some other spots that need a wide receiver, I don't think Atlanta would take him. They need to beef up their defense. But Cincinnati, if they move on from T. Higgins, that would be a nice spot. Pittsburgh obviously needs a wide receiver. Denver needs a wide receiver. So there's a lot of spots. Chargers need a wide receiver.
Dallas does. But I feel like CD plays a lot in the slot and I think him and Burden overlap a little bit. I think Dallas could do better with I don't think Tet would make it to him, but the Ravens need someone else to do gadgety stuff.
They do.
Can you imagine 2 go gadgets?
I would be so upset if he goes to the Ravens.
Yeah, I think because he does the same, not necessarily the same exact thing as
I think it's the same thing that Spanky just brought up. They overlap enough that it would just be like, just eating into each other here.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit,
but then obviously, Philadelphia doesn't really need a wide receiver, but at the back, I don't think he's going to land there. But they can use him.
They started Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, they could use him.
So
there's a lot of spots. Obviously, the Rams, but I think Houston, if he ended up being that, going that far, that would be a nice spot. I've seen Ibuka being mocked there a little bit more than Burden.
Texans, Rams, and Commanders, I think, are the 3 spots that I would get the most excited for with Luther Burden. I don't know. I think Houston makes a lot of sense. That's if I was a betting man, that's where I would say he goes. But we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait for the draft. 60 days, 63 days. I'll just take on.
Nice.
So close already.
Well, and the combine is the end of this month, right?
Yep.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Could be next week.
Free agency.
The 27th of February.
Next week.
Players get there. Is that next week?
Right.
Yeah, next Thursday.
Underwear Olympics, baby. Get hype. We should do a watch party for the Underwear Olympics. I'm kidding.
So while we're talking about the Underwear Olympics, don't get too excited if a player runs like a 4.3 40. If they suck, they still suck. They just are fast. So don't get super hyped up on a mid wide receiver who runs a 4.32. Because guess what? They play in full pads, not in their underwear. So chances are they're not going to be able to move like that when they're actually running a route. So just a friendly TSA.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Don't freak out about the combine.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of good spots that Burden can land. Because there's a lot of teams, especially if he ends up being in that 18 on spot, that he's going to land on a good team, and so I think that would be a really nice spot for him.
Yeah, he's got to go somewhere where they know how to use him. The last thing I would want is honestly New Orleans. I don't trust them to use him very well there.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Or a spot with a bad quarterback. Not that Indianapolis would take one, but if he went to the Colts with Anthony Richardson, I don't need that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Right. I just don't need that. We don't need that in our lives.
I wouldn't want him in Green Bay either.
No, I wouldn't. That's just a jumbled up, and I think him and
Just
Jaden
another
Reed
wide receiver
overlap
too. Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. 63 days, and we'll find out, guys. You guys have anything else for the people?
No, I think we're talking about doing a rookie mock draft next week. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I think so.
Look forward to that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, before the combine, we'll talk a little bit about the combine as well, probably.
Yeah,
I'm
sure we will. Get some measurements in. Although I might have to wait till the next time, depending on when the guys get there. But yeah, we also have a rookie draft kit that's going to come out here after the combine. We get the official measurements in for all the players. It has a bunch of scouting reports on quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. It kind of has some key analytics, some of their pros, cons, player comps, expected draft capitals. Should be really cool. It's available to our patron members, which is $5 a month. So come check it out. It'll be really fun. It'll be worth it.
Let's go.
That's all I got.
All right.
Hop in some more mocks. I try to do one every couple days.
Definitely hop into some mocks. It's good times.
Yeah.
All righty. Peace out.
See you.